Let's start with a simple, staggering statement, one you've likely heard before. Millions will be forced to move. It sounds like a headline from the future, impersonal, remote, almost abstract. We hear these numbers, 10 million, 40 million, 100 million, and our minds struggle to grasp what they truly mean. The scale numbs us. It becomes a problem for politicians, for aid agencies, for someone else to solve. But what if we paused that scroll? What if we looked closer? This story isn't about a distant tomorrow. The first chapters are being written today, in real time. It's etched into the very fabric of our planet and witnessed in the quiet, determined journeys of those who have already lost everything. This is the story of the Great Displacement, and it asks one of the most urgent questions of our century. What happens when the ground beneath your feet, both literally and figuratively, can no longer be called home? To understand this movement, we must first understand the forces dismantling the idea of a permanent home. The primary driver is elemental, ancient, and life-giving: water. Humanity has always built its civilizations around it, along rivers, on coasts, near rainfall. But our relationship with water has entered a pathological phase. We are now living with water in extremes, a devastating paradox of too much and not enough. Look to the coasts first. The oceans, having absorbed decades of our excess heat, are expanding. They are warmer, more energetic, and increasingly volatile. They no longer respect the boundaries we drew on maps centuries ago. This is sea level rise, and it is not a future theory debated by scientists. It is a present tense, measurable reality. The evidence is everywhere, if you know where to look. It's in the chronic flooding of city streets during regular high tides, a phenomenon now so common it has a name: sunny day flooding. It's in the saltwater intrusion that poisons coastal aquifers, turning fresh drinking water brackish and undrinkable. It's in the eroding shorelines where childhood beaches have vanished and family homes perch precariously on crumbling cliffs. For megacities from Jakarta to Miami, this is a multi-billion-dollar crisis of engineering and retreat. But for low-lying island nations across the Pacific and Indian Oceans, it's something far more profound: an existential threat. Their entire landmass, their sovereignty, their cultural identity forged over millennia, is literally being submerged. The rising tide isn't just damaging property, it's questioning the very future of nations. Now, turn the camera inland. Here, the story of water flips. It becomes a story of absence. The reliable seasonal rains that farmers have depended on for generations are becoming fickle ghosts. The great rivers, the Nile, the Indus, the Colorado, the Yangtze, are under unbearable strain from overuse and shrinking glaciers. Drought is no longer a temporary emergency, it's a semi-permanent state. It deepens, stretching from seasons into years, into what scientists call mega-droughts. Underground aquifers, the savings accounts of water, are being pumped dry faster than nature can replenish them. And when the water vanishes, the land itself revolts. The soil, without moisture to hold it together, turns to fine dust and simply blows away on the hot, dry winds. This process, called desertification, is turning once fertile breadbaskets into barren wastelands. The human impact of this hydrological chaos is immediate and visceral. Imagine you are a farmer. You've sown seeds passed down from your father, but the rains never come. Your crops wither in the field before they can even flower. Your investment, your year's labor, turns to dust. Or you are a herder. The pastures have dried up, the watering holes are mud. Your livestock, your bank account, your food, your legacy grow weak and perish. This is not merely an economic loss. It is the unraveling of a sacred covenant with the land that sustained your ancestors. It's the disintegration of a way of life, a culture, a community. When the land can no longer support life, people are left with an impossible choice: stay and face starvation and despair, or leave in search of survival. This is how abstract climate data, parts per million of CO2, degrees of warming, becomes devastatingly personal. This is how it becomes the most powerful driver of migration the world has ever seen. And into this tinderbox of environmental stress, other, older demons awaken. Climate change is what security analysts call a threat multiplier. It rarely starts wars on its own, but it pours gasoline on the smoldering embers of pre-existing tensions. When a once shared river runs dry, cooperation can turn to competition, and competition to conflict. When grazing land disappears, skirmishes between herding communities intensify. Failed harvests lead to food price spikes, which fuel social unrest and political instability in nations already grappling with weak governance. The climate crisis interacts explosively with poverty, historical grievances, and ethnic divisions. And then there is war itself, the sudden, violent, and brutal engine of displacement that has never left the human story. The missile that reduces a home to rubble in an instant. The fear that forces a family to flee in the middle of the night with only what they can carry. These two drivers, the slow, grinding, inexorable pressure of environmental collapse and the sudden, sharp, traumatic rupture of conflict, are becoming deeply and dangerously intertwined. They form a vicious cycle. Environmental degradation fuels instability and conflict, and war in turn destroys the dams, the irrigation systems, the agricultural knowledge, the very infrastructure and social fabric needed to adapt to a changing climate. A person standing in the ruins of their home may not even know if it was destroyed by a bomb or a cyclone. The result, tragically, is the same. They are now stateless, rootless, another number in a growing column of the displaced. So, where do they go? Let's trace the paths of this great displacement on the map. The iconic image of refugees crossing an ocean in rickety boats captures the headlines, but it represents only a fraction of the story. The overwhelming majority of movement, estimated at 80% or more, happens within countries. It is internal, less visible, but no less dramatic. It's the journey of a rural family from a drought-stricken village to the sprawling, overcrowded slums of a megacity like Dhaka, Lagos, or Karachi. These cities, already bursting at the seams, become the shock absorbers of this crisis. This internal flow creates its own challenges: skyrocketing urban density, overwhelming of basic services, and the rise of vast informal settlements. The cross-border flows, while smaller in percentage, carry immense geopolitical and human weight. These are the people who have exhausted all options within their homeland. They risk everything: their savings, their safety, their lives, on perilous journeys across seas, deserts, and hostile borders. They present a fundamental challenge to the international system because the existing 1951 Refugee Convention legally protects those fleeing persecution, but not those fleeing environmental disaster or economic collapse. They become pawns in political dramas, symbols of fear for some and of compassion for others. Their journeys, from Syria to Europe, from Venezuela, across Latin America, from Central America to the United States, redraw the lines of global tension and test the limits of our collective humanity. The arrival of millions in new places, whether a nearby city or a distant country, does not happen in a vacuum. It sends ripple effects through the fabric of receiving societies. Imagine a city already struggling with housing shortages, water scarcity, and underemployment. Suddenly, it must absorb tens of thousands of new arrivals. The strain is immediate. Informal settlements explode. Wages in the informal sector can be driven down, and public services, healthcare, schools, sanitation, are stretched beyond breaking point. This pressure cooker environment is fertile ground for social tension. The newcomer becomes a convenient scapegoat for pre-existing problems. Narratives of fear, scarcity, and us versus them spread faster than facts. We see the political fallout, the rise of populist and nationalist movements promising simple solutions: walls, deportations, closed borders.